population.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, in 1910, their reasoning was, well, no, there really isn't. War is always the best way because you can control the number of population. You can manipulate economies, crash economies, cash in on it. And what they began doing was financing, and that this wasn't the beginning of it, because every war America has ever been in, including the Revolution, was financed by the same individuals on both sides.
Well, Terry, I think it was the American Bankers Association meeting of 1897 or 87. My memory fails me all the time. It's become my worst enemy. But they said that we had to dumb America down because they were getting way too smart. So what are we going to do? We're going to grab hold of the education system. So I think that's back 1800.
That happened in that same meeting. They discussed the possibility of using education, but their end plan was for the short term, war was the best way. So they manipulated World War I, financed both sides. And then during World War I, the Carnegie Foundation sent a letter to President Wilson cautioning him not to end the war too soon and ruin their profits. Then they got together just before the end of the war, and they had another meeting, and they said, we have to have a way to ensure, and I'm paraphrasing here, but these were the words in their meeting minutes, have to have a way to ensure that Americans cannot return to the way of life they had before the war. And that was when they decided to get control of America's education system. Because it wasn't, and it took them a while. They didn't get total control of it until the 70s.
Well, actually, 1960s Department of Education.
Yeah, but it took a while for that to permeate across the country.
Yeah,
I think it was like 1974, somewhere around there. And what they said was, any country that can completely control the public education system for 2 generations can totally, utterly enslave and control the entire population.
I have to throw this in. My 11th grade teacher came in, literature, came in and went ballistic on the 1968, I think it was 67, Collegiate Dictionary. This has the definitions, everything, which is under these people's control, to twist our minds. Everything. And I'll take it another step further. The 20s came about and they said, oh, the roaring 20s, we have all this money because we won World War I. Bull. They released a whole bunch of credit. You could walk in and get credit for anything. The evil purpose was to crash it into the 30s. The people will say, oh, the war ended the Depression. Bull. What they did was they crashed the economy, bought businesses and everything else for pennies on the dollar. They bought businesses which could be used to make war materials. Then they marched us into World War II, and boom, all of a sudden, all this money. No, what happened is they cut the currency loose like crazy. They doubled the amount of currency in circulation, if memory serves, inside of 1 year. And then it was a situation, well, put it this way, a $6,000 house before the war was a $12,000 house afterwards. So every time. Now, we have been at war for God knows how long in the Middle East. You tell me, if it's good for economy, what economy? And they do it by dumbing us down.
Well, exactly. And there's a reason that we have to remain in perpetual state of war.
Yep.
And that goes back to 1860, when President Abraham Lincoln declared a national state of emergency at the outset of the Civil War.
Suspend the Constitution.
That's at any time that America is at in a declared war. That is martial law, a state of emergency.
Bingo.
And it suspends our Constitution for the duration. Now, President Lincoln, he had some regrets, and he did fully intend to reverse that, to rescind it at the end of the war, and he was in the process of kicking out the bankers and restoring gold-backed currency. That's actually what got him killed. Since Abraham Lincoln was assassinated before he could bring an end to martial law and the national state of emergency, which is why he was killed, we've been kept perpetually in a state of national emergency since 1860. So our Constitution, as much as it has been shredded and amended illegally, because during a time of war, Congress can pass no laws when the Constitution is suspended. That is unconstitutional right there.
Let me mention
so
something
in order
else.
to stay in a perpetual state of war, they had to have perpetual wars. Now, of course, that lines their pockets, so they're not against that idea. In comes after we had the Civil War, we had World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the wars in the Middle East. But they don't have to be bangs and bullets war. They just have to be congressionally declared war.
No.
So what else do we have all through the 20th century and into the 21st? It started with Congress declaring a war on illiteracy. Then there was the war on drugs. And now there is the war on terrorism.
Terry,
and it's all fake. Every bit of it.
I got to mention this. This is driving me crazy. It's in the congressional record. Every time the Congress convenes, some jerk gets up there at the beginning of it and says, well, we're operating under a state of emergency, and the Constitution has been suspended. It's in the congressional record, for crying out loud. It's in your face.
Right. It's always in our face, but we're educated not to notice. One thing that I did point out in that previous radio show towards the end of it, and I think most parents out there are going to realize this, they are doing away with books, with textbooks, and going to computer programming, and the children are doing their schoolwork on computer programming with computer software. Well, guess what they use to develop that software that your children are being subjected to every day? They use the psychology of Pavlov's dogs to create that software. The purpose is to identify at 5 years old what a child's potential is going to be and determine what they will be trained to do for the rest of their lives. If they have no particular obvious exceptional ability, then they are deemed to be like worker bees, and they're never taught to excel any further than that. Because the mission statement of the Department of Education under the government, under the federal control, is a workforce program.
Terry, are they going to hook electrodes to the computer so the child answers the incorrect answer, which is not pro-government answer? Do they shock the child?
I don't know. Let's hope not.
It wouldn't surprise me, I tell you.
But that's where Bush's "No Child Left Behind" came in.
Right.
If you make everybody think, well, we want to make sure no kid fails, then that excuses no child being allowed to excel.
Right.
Crushing they've all got to be equal.
Crushing us down to the lowest common denominator, and they're doing their very best to dumb down the smartest the most. And I'll tell you what, that goes for college, folks. I I don't want to use the word they teach them in college. It's designed to make them stupid. STOOPID, stupid.
Yes. Now that brings me back to the American military. And a lot of listeners out there will say, well, we have the military-industrial complex, and they certainly knew what was going on. Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely have been culpable. And I doubt that very many Americans realize it, but another thing that is unconstitutional in this country is to have any standing army unless you are in a state of declared war.
War, what is it good for? It's good for funding.
Yes, so except for the Navy, that is constitutional. Our Constitution provides for a Navy at all times, but not Marines, Army, Air Force. Only during a time of war can those branches of military exist.
Even more.
And if you read your Constitution, you will see that I am right.
Even more, if you get hold of, I'm sorry, I'm an obnoxious jerk by nature, Terry. I'm sorry, but even more, if you look at the blue section of your of your telephone book, and you look at all the different departments, my dad hammered the Constitution into me when I was a kid, and my mom, and they handed me the phone book and said, okay, how many of these are constitutional? All those different departments. I looked down and I figured about a third of them. He said 2.
Wow.
Made me look a fool. but this is how bad it is. It's in your face, folks. It's just finally people are beginning to believe it. They're beginning to hurt enough to listen to the truth rather than dream on. And, Terry, once again, you know more about this than I do, so I ought to shut up. But every once in a while, you're talking on such a high plane. You're so educated that I'm sitting there thinking, what about the fellow who's just tuned in?
I just read a whole lot.
Yeah, you do. And you assume a lot of us know a lot of things, and we don't know as much as you do, Terry.
Well, there's a lot of people who know more than I do, and I'll tell you what, I'm sure that when it's all said and done, if we ever get our country back, there's a whole lot that I don't know that I don't want to know. But the point is that it's gotten completely out of control.
Yeah.
Because the regular military, they didn't realize that the ultimate goal, that there was a plan unbeknownst to them. Some of them at the very top are aware of it, but most of them are not, that there was a plan from the beginning for New World Order. And this has been going on for not decades,
centuries,
but hundreds of years.
Middle of the 1400s, folks.
Exactly. And the end result of that New World Order is the elimination of 2/3 of the world's population.
At least.
So along came Agenda 21. The UN was created to finally achieve it. They were the tool in order to infiltrate all the countries, uniform everybody, put their laws in place instead of that country's laws, whatever they may be. And then the military gets wise and realizes, holy cow, now they're collapsing the global economy on purpose.
Simultaneously, all of them.
Yeah.
And you notice these counterfeit bonds, bankers resigning, a document that we made viral yesterday, which has been seen on the Internet, but not by the mass public. And, of course, all of the criminals in Washington are fully aware of it. But what they're not aware of is that we are aware of it.
Let me toss something else in here. Okay, the best way to destroy a country and its economy is to debauch its currency. The Federal Reserve is cranking out $100 bills at $1 jillion an hour. They put them in circulation for a little while. They're supposedly going to be destroyed. They go onto pallets and sent all throughout the world. They're saying, oh, the Koreans are counterfeiting the C-note, the $100 bill. The best way to destroy a country's economy is to debauch the currency. Who's debauching our currency?